What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. We are flying solo this evening. Hopefully, everybody's having an awesome weekend as we're winding it down here on this glorious May the 11th. Getting ready for another work week and excited to talk a little Packers with everybody here tonight. I see the chat is already filling up, man. We got a bunch of people in here. Got a lot of good feedback on the Matthew Golden Chalk Talk episode. If you guys haven't checked that out, make sure you check it out after this stream ends. It's already up over on our YouTube channel. We just kind of edited and cut it out of a past episode that we did, so we've got it kind of right there for your just easy access, I guess you could say. And I want to say this. Rumble is currently down in terms of connecting with StreamYard. So if you're wondering why we haven't been live on Rumble the last few days, I've been setting it up and it's just not going live there. It doesn't look like it's live tonight. So hopefully they'll get that up and running here real soon. As I sent them an email, and unlike YouTube, they actually emailed me right back, said, hey, we're aware of the problem. We're trying to get it straightened out. So we'll probably hold off on the Baron Sorrell Chalk Talk for that reason, because I'd like it to be able to go over onto Rumble as well. So that's kind of where we're at there. Let's see who all's in the chat here as everybody's filing in. We got Daryl in the house, Josh Vallandingham, Brenton, Indiana, Taylor, the Packers News. We've got Mountain Man Pack, United Bates, Chris the Casual, Ian, everybody filing in here. Holmes, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. Let's see, Biz. We got Biz 1987 in the house. We got Greg Rice. Haven't seen Affam yet. There's Mountain Man Pack. We already said him. Where's Affam at? Is he doing okay this evening? I wonder if he's doing all right. You guys, you don't think that mustache got him in trouble, do you? Just curious on that. Clint, the armchair quarterback, gifted 10 Packer fan total access memberships. Thank you so much, Clint. Appreciate you there, pal. And obviously everybody will get access to the custom emojis there, like the Michael Myers, Edgerrin Cooper emoji, all that stuff. Just little perks to being a member here on YouTube. We appreciate y'all for that. Thank you so much for that dono there, Clint. You are the man. Holmes says, understood, Clay. It's always something, right, bro? Man, I can't keep. And, me having the low self-image that I have, it's immediately, what did I screw up, right? And this time I emailed them and say, hey, I'm doing something wrong. They're like, no, you're not, bub. It's on our end. You're good. So hopefully we can get it straightened out. There you go. Chris the Casual in sees the emoji. Good deal, man. All right, so let's get into a little Patreon questions real quick and hit those. There's been a couple in there sitting for a few days, and I hadn't had a chance to hit them. We've been so consumed with other content. Rodney Jens in there said, I ran across this article the other day about trading Quay Walker for Trey Hendrickson. There are others as well with multiple trade partners for him. And I did check out the article. And listen, I want to be very clear, and I gotta be careful with this type of stuff, Rodney, because you guys know there's articles like this that go out like crazy every year, right? And especially this time of the year. And these are they're not even rumors. It's just suggestions, right? Like, hey, this trade might make sense. So if you're talking in terms of potentially trading Quay Walker and what it would take, if you're telling me you could get Trey Hendrickson for Quay Walker, I would definitely entertain that offer. As a matter of fact, I think that's what Elijah may have said then here. Let's see. Elijah Gwynn says, maybe I'm alone on this, but I feel very comfortable with our edge defenders after the draft. I think losing Quay would hurt more than gaining Trey would help. And I think that's a solid point. If you're telling me you could get Trey Hendrickson in a straight up trade for Quay and you don't see Quay Walker as like a part of the future in your middle linebacker room, which I personally don't think that's how Goody sees it. Now, you got two sides to the coin when it comes to Quay Walker in his situation. You're entering the last year of your contract. They chose to not pick up the fifth-year option because of the edge player inflation on that number. Yeah, if it had been, at $8 or $9 million for inside linebackers, I think they would have picked it up, to be honest with you. What I'm saying is I think Goody wants to extend Quay Walker to a long-term deal. I'm not saying that's what I would do. Now, for the right price, absolutely. We kind of talked about somewhere between $5 to $8 million per. Yeah, I'm on board. But when you look at it from Quay's standpoint, he's got to be going, man, if I can just get out of here this year, not that he doesn't want to be a Green Bay Packer, but if I can just get to the market, I think his market will go through the roof. I've seen teams overpay for inside linebackers that weren't necessarily that good in their instincts and on the tape, but they had just crazy athletic ability. And make no mistake about it, like Quay Walker is an athletic freak. It's just the processing is what seems to be kind of lagging a little bit there. And I want to point this out too, as many people have mentioned over and over and over. He kind of started to put it together at the end of the year last year, and then he suffered, I believe, what was it, an ankle injury. So hopefully he can pick up where he left off before he suffered that injury and continue to move in the right direction. But I do think, as we all know, Goody loves re-signing his top picks. I mean, he slapped a 5th-year option on Darnell Savage that was worth, what, almost $8 million. He was a first-round pick. He did let Josh Myers walk, right? So that's a little bit of recent precedent. Would you be willing to let Quay Walker walk in free agency? In the past, it just kind of seems like Goody doesn't want to give up on his draft pick. So if he can get him at the right dollar amount in his mind, then I think they'll make that happen, me personally. So, yeah, man, Savage, that's a blast from the past right there. My goodness. So I want to go back to what he said here. Maybe I'm alone on this, but I feel very comfortable with our edge defenders after the draft. I think losing Quay would hurt more than gaining Trey would help. I'm with you on the edge room. I mean, we were pretty vocal about it during draft season. As soon as the season wrapped up, you didn't hear me saying, we got to go get an edge. We got to go get an edge. Now, there were a few names that surfaced, like, James Pierce, right? Who was the other one? There was another one too, Mike Green. If nothing, if the personal conduct kind of checked out on Goody's end, I would have been good with that. It's such an important position. If the board falls just right, absolutely take the best player available if it's an edge. But I didn't feel like we needed to go get an edge. And I know there was many people that kind of bought into the whole doom and gloom of, man, this edge defender room is so bad. And I'm telling you, guys, it's not as bad as some fans and some of the media members made it out to be. And what really gives me, I don't want to say hope, but just like it kind of, I rested easy, was like, you can watch what they're doing on the field, and they weren't pinning their ears back and going. And anyone who watches this show or listens to this podcast consistently, we've talked about that ad nauseum. I'm going to continue to talk about it because there's still people out there that are claiming LVN can't beat a tight end pass block. It's like, I've seen those reps. He wasn't trying to get to the QB. He was playing a touch spot. He was engaging with the tight end, setting the edge against the run, and just kind of playing patty cake with the tight end with eyes on the quarterback. And it's just amazing how people will literally, they'll take that and be like, look at this. He can't even beat a tight end. It's just silly. And I'm going to be real, man. Former players talking like that. I'm like, now don't get me wrong. I don't want to mention any names, but those former players, when they open their mouth talking X's and O's sometimes, it's like, yeah, you played a long time ago and the game has changed quite a bit. And I'm sure they've forgotten more about football than I'll ever know. But with that being said, it's like you can look at the tape, you can watch the tape and see that on those specific plays, they weren't really pinning their ears. But now, does that mean that we were a top 3 pass rush? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But it's not as bad as people made it out like we were bottom 5. And that was just not the case. Matter of fact, let's go to some team statistics here. And this is sack percentage right here that we're going to pull up. And you're going, whoa, Clayton, well, you're always talking pressures over sacks. Yeah, I gave in this year. I'm like, okay, y'all want to talk sacks? We'll talk sacks. Not y'all, but just the people that are like, I need people that finish. That was the big line last year, right? Look at the sack percentage. Green Bay finished 12th. And you're going, well, Clayton, that ain't top 10. You're right, it ain't. At 7.42% sack rate, look at all the other teams that are in that 7% range. The Jets, Washington, LA Chargers, Philadelphia. Philadelphia, guys, we were less than 0.1% behind Philadelphia in sack rate. And you would listen to people on the radio, and they talk like this was a bottom 5 pass rush. It's just wild. And I say that because that's even with the tape showcasing and telling you, screaming, jumping off the screen, hey, they're really only rushing 3 here. They have the illusion of rushing 4, but they're actually only rushing 3 because one is in the touch spot, whether it was Kenny with the injured foot. I believe it was a foot or a toe he had injured last year. So I kind of felt like they played to that a little bit. Like, okay, Kenny can't really get after the quarterback that much. Let's let him play that touch spot. And to me, that makes all the sense in the world now as to why they chose to approach it that way. Although Kenny held up pretty decent at one tech last year in the nickel. And if you don't believe that, go look at the rankings. But again, here you got the sack rate, right? They're 12th in sack rate and less than 1%, actually less than 0.5% away from being sixth best in the league in sack rate, or seventh best. So they're showing 12th, but they're actually kind of pretty much tied for seventh best in the league. So that's just one, part of it, right? Now let's jump in here and let's go passing defense, and let's just see, okay, sacking the quarterback and pass rush to me goes hand in hand with the success or lack thereof of the passing game. So what was the opponent's yards per pass attempt, right? We've talked about this before. We're going to hit it again, though. They keep trying to get me with a copyright here. I'm just telling you right now, man. I don't know why, but that keeps popping up, and it's a baseball game highlight, and they're trying to nail me on this website. So here we are with yards per pass attempt. So what this statistic tells you is every time the opponent passed the football, right? How many, you take all those attempts and you divide it by how many passing yards they had against your team, right? Or against the opponent. And that's going to tell you how many yards they averaged. Every time they dropped back, they averaged gaining this many yards. First place is the Philadelphia Eagles at 5.6 yards per pass attempt. The Packers are showing in the 10 spot, but if you look at the numbers, they're actually tied for 8th in yards per pass attempt. So again, that goes hand in hand, in my opinion, with the coverage and with the pass rush. And we had people that were freaking out over the cornerback room going, we got to go draft the corner in the first round. Once again, there was a couple of corners that I like, Jahdae Barron and those guys. I would have been totally on board with them drafting one of those in the first round if the board fell just right. But it fell in a way that Goody obviously wanted to take a wide receiver. Matthew Golden was in his current top tier of talent, and he went in that direction. So when you look at this stuff and you look at the key statistics, what it tells me is we had the 8th best passing defense in the league, and we pretty much were within less than 0.5% of being right around the 7 or 8 mark in sack percentage. So can you get better? Yeah. I would love to have the number 1 spot on both of these metrics, right? But what it's telling you is you're top 10. You're top 10 in passing defense. You're top 10 in pass rush. Like, we finished 8th in the league in sacks. And as you probably wonder, why is it showing whatever the number was, 12th in sack percentage, is because of the amount of, opportunities, the amount of attempts might have skewed that a little bit. So again, we finished 8th in the league in sacks. So, and you guys know, I'm pressing into this sack talk because you guys know I'm more interested in pressures than sacks. And what I mean by that is, yes, I would prefer a sack over a pressure all day long, twice on Sunday. But if it comes down to you've got to sacrifice one or the other, you can have an overinflated pressure number knowing you're moving the quarterback off his spot, which is something Matt LaFleur talked about a lot this offseason, moving the quarterback off his spot. And again, when you do that, what happens? Pressure, pick, right? Pressure, pick, coverage, sack. When you've got great coverage, sometimes the ball has to be held for more than 2.5 seconds. The quarterback takes a sack because you had good coverage, right? It might be a press man technique, whatever it may be. And then on the other side, with the pressure, if the pressure hits home, the quarterback rushes the ball out, or he throws off balance, he's off his back foot, he's out of timing, out of rhythm. If you did play some kind of press technique and he had to force the ball out, you're getting a lot of interceptions. You don't go out and get as many interceptions as the Green Bay Packer defense did the first half of the season last year without pressuring the quarterback. I'm sorry. It just doesn't happen. So I prefer, like, what I mean by that is, let's say you could choose between 10 sacks or 20 pressures. And what I mean by that is, would you rather have your guys have 10 sacks and only 12 pressures, or would you rather have 20 pressures with 8 sacks? The 10 sacks looks better than the 8 sacks. But again, if you're moving the quarterback off his spot and you're getting pressure on him more consistently, I lean towards that as opposed to, man, look at us, we're great at sacks. I'm pressing into the sack numbers like this simply because I know people that way. As soon as you mention pressure in the quarterback, they're like, that's not finishing. That's not finishing. That's what I heard all year long. So anyway, that's a little bit of pass rush talk. Now, while we're in here looking at the team statistics from last year, let's take a quick look at the rushing defense. And I like to go with opponent yards per rush attempt. There it is again. About got me. See it? Now we got ads flying. Here we go. Go check out Verbo. All right. Get you a good Verbo. So we finished 2nd in the league in rushing yards per attempt. All right. Notice Denver's 4, we are 4, sitting at 4.0. Only Baltimore had a better run defense than us. And I like yards per attempt over yards per game because you you can get overinflated yards per game allowed. I don't even know what the Packers allowed rushing yards wise per game. I could care less, to be honest with you, because to me, this is the more important number. If you got a team, let's say you turned the ball over 3 times, you gave them 3 extra possessions, they moved the ball, they picked up 2 extra first downs, and that gained them another 23 yards rushing. That can give you a false sense of hope if you're the offensive team, or, kind of paint a picture that you're doomed in run defense if you're on the other side of the ball. I like the yards per attempt more than just about anything. The EPA allowed, I really like that as well, but I really like this website here with team rankings. Just really, really simple for me. So that being said, we finished second in rush defense, and we had a top 10 pass defense. I think I feel comfortable saying we're right around the 7 or 8 mark in pass defense. So that's why, to go back to the original Patreon comment there from Elijah Gwynn, I don't look at the edge room and go, oh, no. That's the other thing. Like with this yards per rush allowed at 4.0, Rashawn Gary led the entire National Football. Last I heard, in the entire National Football League, he led all edge defenders in run stop percentage, which means he prevented the play from becoming a first down by tackling the ball carrier on a running play, right? So it was so obvious. The tape shows it. The numbers reflected it. The lack of pass rush and sack numbers went down as well. That lines up with what the tape's showing us. We see Kenny playing a touch spy. We see LVM playing a little touch spy at times. Everything just plays into the whole, okay, Hafley came in here and he said, here's the game plan, guys. We're stopping the damn run. That's what we're doing. Period. Case closed. And then along the way, you got into some really good pass rush games like Tennessee, right? And others where they got after the quarterback. Why? Because they jumped up to a big lead. If you look at any game where the Packers had a 2-score lead, you'll see that they had really, really good pressure on the quarterback down the stretch. Why? Because Hafley turned them loose. And I know there's going to be some fans that don't like that. They're going to immediately go back to the Joe Barry talk of, he's just playing like – I heard that a couple times last year. This looks just like Joe Barry's defense. They're playing soft. Guys, everything's situational. Like, if someone were to hop in the chat and say, Clayton, do you think they played soft last year? I'd go, where do you want me to start? What game? Hell, what series, right? Because every series is different. You're going to attack you're going to attack an offense differently based off the personnel, based off the down and distance, based off the score of the game, based off your opponent, based off your injury situation, right? You may go into a game plan one week and go, man, we're down an edge defender. We're going to be a little weak in the pass rush anyway. Let's make sure we take away the run. We're probably not going to hit home with the quarterback, but let's make them one-dimensional in that aspect to see if our secondary can make a play. So, and again, I'm not the grand poobah of this stuff. I hope I don't come across sounding like that. I've got so much to learn. All I'm simply saying is don't take what I'm saying. Don't listen to my voice and go, well, Clayton said this, that must be right. No, cross-check it. Go watch the tape. Go check it yourself. That's how we all learn and hold each other accountable. So I'm just simply saying, when you hear that stuff, let it go through one ear and out the other, and you go do the research. You do the checking yourself. So hopefully all that makes sense. And I didn't plan on getting into a big pass rush talk there, but I'm glad we did it because I think it does apply going into this year. And I tell you, man, when we do get around to doing the Baron Sorrell Chalk Talk, hoo-wee, man. I try not to get excited about anything out of the first round. If you get a first-round pick, I feel like, okay, that first-round pick should probably contribute significantly. Anything after that, if they contribute their rookie year, that's a home run for me. That's just the way I look at the draft because it's such a difficult task to ask a 21, 22, 23-year-old kid to come into the National Football League and play against grown-ass men who have been working out full-time for a living for at least the last 2 or 3 years, some of them 7 or 8 years, and they know the tricks of the trade. But I kind of feel like that first rounder, man, they really need to contribute. And Goody doesn't even see the first rounder like that, to be honest with you. I don't think. It seems like they'll kind of hold those guys back a little bit. So anyway, Holmes, yeah, exactly. Clay, that would require focus and effort. LOL. Yeah, and listen, that's the thing too. Like, there's people hearing my voice that you don't want to watch the tape. You just want to get in there and have a hot take and have fun and talk ball and cut up with the chat, man. Hey, they thank God for fans like that because I'm a nerd. I'll bore you to death with this stuff. So, I don't want it to come across like those people aren't welcome on our show or welcome to talk in here. And I know he was referring to probably the media that won't dive into it, but. There's another guy on Twitter that cracks me up how he went to. I mean, this dude, he went down with the Titanic with Josh Myers, and it's like, man, and he's still convinced that Josh Myers is a good center, and I'm like, but you know how important center is in the NFL, and you're telling me that only one team was interested in Josh Myers at less than $2 million on a 1-year deal. Too drunk to taste that chicken, just can't do it, man. Cannot do it. So, all right, there's a little pass rush talk. Now let's move along here to something else I wanted to hit on. Let's talk a little wide receiver room. It's kind of exciting. We drafted 2 receivers this year. Obviously, they took one in the first round, and first time since 2002. And I remember that when I became a Packer fan around 2003, I remember Quay Walker. I remember, like, if you're wondering, oh, Clayton, why were you so late to the party becoming a Packer fan? As I've told this story before, I was a college football fan. I loved college football, didn't watch much pro football. My brother, in and out of the Army, when he was in on leave from overseas, from the Persian Gulf and Desert Storm and everything, he would come home, and he was a big Steelers fan, and he got me watching pro football, and I loved it. And then when he went back, got redeployed and all that, it kind of took that out of me, that sad time that my big brother was having to go back over there where missiles were being fired and all that. And I just kind of stepped away from it. Like, it was almost like it was this special thing that was just for me and him, And long story short, when he gets out of the military and we move in together down there in Knoxville, Tennessee, I'm like, man, I'm going to become a big UT ball fan. I love college football. I'm going to follow them now that I'm in town. And we got to watch an NFL, and I just fell in love with it. And then, of course, I've told the story about how I just discovered the Green Bay Packers history, because I'm a big history nerd. It's like, oh, man, this is my team right here. You kidding me? I literally bought a DVD set, watched the history of the Green Bay Packers, watched the Ice Bowl, the old broadcast version. And 2 weeks later, I was at Lambeau Field watching them play the Bears in week 1. I'm pretty sure it was week 1 alumni game. It was 03 or 04, somewhere around that time. But Quay Walker was already on the team. That's where I was going. So obviously taking Matthew Golden, first round wide receiver since 2002. And then, of course, getting Savion Williams, as I'm continuing to say, man, you don't know. He may end up being better than Golden, but I'm really excited about both these guys. So what I did was put a little article together, 3 things to watch for with the 2025 Green Bay Packers wide receiver room. All right. So in the intro, just the Green Bay Packers wide receiver room is poised for a dynamic overhaul in the 2025 season with fresh talent, injury concerns, and intense roster battles after a 2024 season that saw quarterback Jordan Love ranked 5th in the NFL with 69 passes thrown, 20-plus yards downfield. The receiver group is crucial to elevating the passing game and competing in the NFC North. Here are the top 5 storylines to watch for as the Packers wide receiver room takes shape in 2025. So obviously at the top of the list is the Christian Watson injury. When is he going to return? Right? That's the big thing that I feel like is going to shape this room moving forward, whether or not he is going to be healthy as they move forward. That's going to be a big question. So Green Bay Packers wide receiver Christian Watson, who suffered a torn ACL on his right knee during the Week 18 loss to the Chicago Bears on January 5th, 2025, faces a recovery timeline that could impact his availability for the 2025 season. I want to say this too. I keep hearing this get brought up on other podcasts and on live radio. I'm with you, Chris. I see that. Savion, Future X, kind of feels like an X receiver, man. He does. And I know many people would disagree with that, and that's okay, but it does kind of feel like that. But they keep bringing up that the reason that Christian Watson played in that game was because Romeo Doubs had an illness. He was sick. And, I didn't really think about it at the time, and it is true. He did. He missed that game because he was sick. Christian Watson went out, suited it up, and tore his ACL, battling the other injuries. There's still people that believe that the ACL, this is a separate injury. The hell it is. This is how that works. when you're having to overcompensate for other injuries where he was dealing with, what was it, a quad or a hamstring? It wasn't a hamstring. I think it was a quad or something. Knee bruise is what it was, opposite knee, right? And then he ends up tearing the ACL on the other knee. It's easy to just go, well, that was a different knee. He's just injury prone. Now you're overcompensating there is what you're doing. But they were pointing out that if Romeo would have just toughed it out and got out there on the field and played sick, then he wouldn't have even been on the field. I respectfully disagree with that opinion because it was on the coaching staff to protect Christian Watson. That Bears game meant nothing to us. We ended up pulling the starters later in the game anyway, right? Ended up losing the game because we pulled all the starters. It's amazing how the Bears fans think they actually won that game too. But the reason I bring that up is because they should have protected Christian Watson. Of course, Christian's going to want to go out there. That dude's as stand up as they come. That guy, he wants to be out there with his teammates. It's just us. I don't want to hammer on Romeo Doubs too much here, but I can understand how people can look up and go, this dude battled injuries all day long or all year long in Christian Watson. And he's like, as soon as Romeo said he couldn't go because he was sick, he's going to go out there and lay it on the line and rips his leg. And I'm going to be real with you guys. There is a really, really, really good chance Christian Watson cost himself tens of millions of dollars. That's the reality of that situation. I hope he comes back stronger than ever and outperforms what he did before and makes even more money, whether it's with the Packers or anywhere else, because that's the kind of guy he is. But it's just a tough situation. I heard that said about Romeo, and I'm like, I understand that standpoint, but at the same time, I put it on the coaches and the trainers. He shouldn't have been out there, period. So you got to protect your players for sure. And he did. It was said, I think Christian even said it on social media or an interview or whatever, he wanted to be out there. He was not going to take no for an answer. So if we're going to defend the coaches a little bit, there's room for that too. So anyway, typical ACL recovery takes 6 to 9 months. But Watson's injury, which includes additional damage, they said he did all kinds of damage in there with some of the lateral stuff. So may extend this period. His father indicated on X that Watson could return around week 12 of the 25 season, aligning with a 9 to 10 month recovery. Watson has expressed optimism, sharing a video of himself on a treadmill and noting he's in a really good spot, while Coach Matt LaFleur praises his progress. However, with the injury's timing and complexity, Watson is likely to miss at least the early portion of the 25 season, with a potential return between mid-November and December 25. So realistically, we're looking at November, December, second half of November, first half of December type thing. And I did hear too, I think it was on Wildy and Tausch, they talked about the other day that I think a student at a local school asked him if he would come and hang out for some kind of, I think it was, I could be wrong here. I want to say it was some kind of a fundraiser for charity, like where they do like a walkathon type thing. And I think it was geared around cancer, fighting cancer, I believe. He showed up. Kids just asked him to come. Yeah, he was out there walking around stuff. They said he looked good. Now, listen, he, like Wildy said, walking in a charity event's much different than running for a 60-yard bomb, right? So, but it is a good sign, What if he does come back in like October, when he does come back, I want him to be healthy. That's the main thing. I don't want him to risk hurting that leg any more than he already has, for sure. So, yeah. All right, moving along. That's, again, Christian Watson. That's going to kind of shape this wide receiver room. Essentially, what you've got is, for a good portion of the season, you have an open slot at the top of the depth chart. At the top of the depth chart, right? So that leads us to the next question here. Number 2 on the list, Romeo Doubs trade rumors. All right. Romeo Doubs, a key wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers, faces swirling trade rumors heading into the 25 season, with speculation about a potential move before the campaign begins. Reports surfaced that the Packers offered Doubs to the Seahawks in a proposed deal for star wide receiver DK Metcalf, though no trade materialized. Additionally, Doubs has been linked to trade proposals involving the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are reportedly seeking to bolster their receiving core. These rumors come fresh off a season where Doubs was suspended for 1 game for no showing practice 2 days in a row for what many believe was, quote, unhappiness with his role in the offense, along with growing injury concerns after suffering 2 concussions. With the emergence of younger talents like first-round rookie Matthew Golden and established options like Jaden Reed, along with Doubs entering the final year of his contract, the Packers may consider moving Doubs, whose reliable hands and route running make him an attractive asset for contending teams. Trading Doubs would open up the top of the receiver room for young players like Matthew Golden, Savion Williams, Dontavion Wicks to take his spot out on the perimeter. So there's a couple of different ways you can look at this, and we'll break it down here in the second part of this article here. But first of all, I want to say the fact that he was suspended for a game and he had those 2 concussion issues, right? That's going to drive his stock down, right? I don't expect to get hardly anything for Romeo Doubs if they do decide to move on from him. Now, if you trade him and the team who's acquiring him agrees to take on that full salary, you are going to be freeing up something like $3.4 million. If it were me, and you could guarantee me the concussions are not going to be an issue, which no one can guarantee that. We all know that. And the personal issues with the coaching staff or the lack of being involved in the offense or unhappiness with his role, if you could tell me all that's gone, I would much rather have Romeo Doubs for 1 year to allow Matthew Golden and Savion Williams to get their feet under him. If that makes sense. The issue is you can't guarantee me that the concussions are not going to be a problem, and you can't guarantee me that he's going to stay happy, especially seeing that you just drafted 2 wide receivers within the first 3 rounds. You're going to be looking to get them acclimated as soon as possible. So if he was upset last year, he's really going to be pissed this year, you know? So with that being said, if I'm Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst, I'm sitting down with Romeo Doubs or getting on a Skype call or something as soon as possible and saying, hey, man, where's your head at? What are you thinking here? What do you want to do? Do you want to be here or not for this year? And, do you want to come in, work your ass off, and potentially get paid like it? Or do you want us to trade you? What would you prefer? And I think that being upfront with people like that, not only do I think the player would appreciate it, not that you really care, because if they're not going to be on the roster, you're not going to be working with them anymore anyway. But I think that sets a good standard within the culture of your locker room too, that you're willing to go to a player and be like, hey, look, it ain't just about us. It's about what's best for all of us collectively, right? So I have a feeling that Romeo Doubs is not going to be on the roster when we run out there on week 1. That's just me personally. And the other thing too, along with Elton Jenkins, along with Jair Alexander, we've talked about those 2 situations, pretty extensively. It's my understanding Romeo Doubs has not been spotted at any offseason stuff so far this year either. Now, I know we got some dates coming up here soon, so we may get a little bit more of an answer. Let's see. May 14th is the rookie premiere in Los Angeles. That's where we'll see Matthew Golden. Oh, by the way, I want to say this about Matthew Golden. There's rumors that the jerseys have been pulled from the pro shop. So that makes me think, I wonder if him and Malik Willis have worked out a deal for him to get number 2 instead of wear 22. I heard some rumors. I don't know if there's any truth or validity to it, but we'll see. So, but anyway, back to the dates. I was trying to get an idea here. The schedule release is the 14th. We'll be live here on PTA Live at 7 p.m. Central to announce that. So it looks like May 28th. All right, May 28th is going to be OTAs, right? Now, that's not the mandatory mini camp, right? But that's OTAs that they're expected the players to be there. Now, in the past, Jair's missed it. I think last year he showed up, though. That was a really, really positive sign for us that Jair showed up for OTAs last year. I'm pretty sure I'm remembering that correctly. But if we don't see a Romeo Doubs at these OTAs, we don't see Elton Jenkins at these OTAs. Jair, I don't expect him to be there until they work out a deal. So I'm not as worried about that one. But those other 2, if Rome doesn't show up, that tells me he's wanting to trade. He's wanting out, right? If Elton doesn't show up, it tells me he's probably wanting a little bit of security in that contract where he's got this year and next year left, and they're asking him to move to center. So keep your eye on that as we move forward as well. All right, moving on to the third thing to watch here, battle for the top spot. I love this shot right here, too, of Matthew Golden. Let me see if I can zoom in so y'all can see it a little bit better. That fingertip catch right there, one-handed grab. Absolutely love it, man. So, battle for the top spot. I'm just going to read the article, and then let's just have a conversation about it. I'm going to try to get your all's take on the wide receiver room here towards the top of the depth chart, if you would. And I can pull a depth chart up here in a minute. You guys let me know in the chat what y'all think the depth chart will look like. But battle for the top spot with Christian Watson most likely to be on IR until November, and the Green Bay Packers' top perimeter wide receiver positions are up for grabs in 2025. With a heated competition among first-round rookie Matthew Golden, Romeo Doubs, Dontavion Wicks, Savion Williams, and Jaden Reed. You're going, whoa, on the perimeter, Clayton? Yeah, I think that's realistic. I do. If they come out of OTAs and Matt LaFleur says, I want Savion in the slot, let's say he says that, Jaden Reed can play Z. He can. I'm telling you, I've talked about this over and over and over. You look at his highlight reel, you'll see a good chunk, if not most of his highlights are him more than 25 yards down the field, making catches in double coverage, making a diving catch on the game-winning drive against the Saints in 23 his rookie year. He can play Z. Now, would I rather him be in the slot? Absolutely, because Savion, like Chris was saying earlier in the chat, with that big frame he's got, 6'3", 6'4", whatever, 222 pounds, I would love to see him at the X position. Him at the X, Jaden Reed in the slot. Now, who's going to play Z? Christian Watson is kind of your perfect Z, right? Being a speed demon like he is and being able to stretch the field side. But who's that going to be here? When you look at the names, Matthew Golden, Romeo Doubs, Dontavion Wicks, Savion Williams, and Jaden Reed. Let's say Jaden Reed's going to be in the slot, all right? Where's Dontavion Wicks? Well, he took a lot of reps away from Romeo Doubs playing boundary X last year, right? So maybe he's the answer at the X receiver position. That could be the case if Romeo Doubs isn't here. If Doubs is on the roster, though, my goodness, you've got Matthew Golden in the Z, right? Romeo Doubs in the X, Savion Williams backing up the X and also being able to play in the backfield and in the slot. Matthew Golden can play in the slot as well. Don't forget that. Dontavion Wicks can play in the slot, but he's going to be a solid backup at the X, right? So all those things come into factor when it comes to the depth chart and wide receiver room. Golden, a speedy and polished rookie, aims to make an instant impact as a deep threat for Jordan Love. Doubs, with his crisp route running and dependable hands, looks to cement his role after developing back-shoulder chemistry with Love if he isn't traded before the season begins. Wicks brings explosive potential, seeking a breakout year after encountering a drop issue in his second year, while Savion Williams, an emerging talent, adds intrigue with raw athleticism and size. Reed, leveraging his versatility and rapport with Love, remains a strong contender in spite of getting most of his snaps in the slot. This battle will define the Packers' passing game and their NFC North ambitions. So again, when you're looking at those top receivers, I'm going to throw this up real quick, Arlad's offense. What's it going to look like, gang? What's it going to look like here? Christian Watson, out of the conversation until November. Let's just scratch him out and say no way, all right? Romeo Doubs, he's your X if he's on the roster. If he's not on the roster, who's going to be the X? Because to me, it feels like if Romeo Doubs is on the roster, Dobby in the X, Matthew Golden at Z, Jaden Reed at the slot, but Matthew Golden and Jaden Reed can interchange there, right? They can really be, they can move in and out from Z to the slot, that F position, that moving Z that Greg Cosell talks about all the time. And then you got Savion Williams coming off the bench, who can kick into the slot or play Z or play X with his size. Dontavion Wicks, who's got experience in both the slot and the X. Feeling pretty damn good about this receiver room. Not going to lie. And then let's say you go in and you're in playoff contention and you're, you might not be winning the North, but let's say you're going to be, one of the wild card teams. It's pretty much you're in the driver's seat for one of those wild card spots, kind of like they were last year for a good portion of the season. When Christian Watson reemerges, and then you start to ease him back into the lineup, right? I think that's I don't know. I really like where this receiver room is personally. So, with that being said, you can see how if Romeo Doubs is not on the roster, who now becomes the X? Who's your X now? Is it Matthew Golden? And you put Wicks at the Z? Do you put Matthew Golden at the Z and Wicks at the X? I think I would lean toward that. You give Savion Williams the third-round pick out of TCU. You give him every opportunity possible to win that X position, right? In my opinion. But it's nice to know that a good chunk of his college career he did spend in the slot and in the backfield a little bit. That's the other thing. If you line him up in the backfield in our pony package where Jaden Reed was before, guess what? You could put Jaden Reed at the X. So there's just a lot of different, I don't know, different angles you could take here. Look at Harry Cheese giving us the inside. He says golden jersey on back order until the end of September. So do you think they just ran out, Harry? Is that what it is? Because I heard rumors that he may be changing his number. I wasn't sure on that. I kind of like the 22. I think it looked good, perfect, personally. So, but let us know if that's the case or not. So, I like that. Clint says, "Can you trade for a new jersey?" That's a real thing too. People probably laughing about that, but that's a real thing. I remember, man, I hate to bring this up because it's such a sad situation, but I remember when Aaron Hernandez, that whole thing went down and he got arrested. Patriots bought all those jerseys back from the fans and basically, hey, bring us in that jersey and we'll give you a different one type thing. Is how I remember that. So Harry says it's back order doesn't mean that it ain't a font. Ain't a font for a change. Okay, gotcha. Good stuff, man. All right, so that's your receiver room. That's kind of how we're sitting there. I wanted to just take a quick little look at it, and we're starting to come down the stretch here. We're probably going to get some answers. Probably going to get some answers on this wide receiver room on how is this thing going to shake out? What's going to happen with Romeo Doubs? That's the big starting point, right? Because he's kind of the cog in this thing. He's the one who's got the most rapport with Jordan Love. There's no two ways about that. Although Jaden Reed's had more success with Jordan Love. Jaden Reed is so underrated. It's not even funny, man. It's not even funny. And when he comes out and just balls out this year, I'm going to laugh at the people that jump right back on the bandwagon because there was a lot of people running that mouth last year, man. There's no doubt about it. That drove me crazy. It was just like, my man battling an ankle injury. He's still leading your team in receiving yards. He's running jet sweeps for it's like, what are we even talking about here? Why are we trying to run Jaden Reed out of town all of a sudden? So, Coach Lynn in the chat says lots of versatility in the wide receiver room. Really is. And you could tell now looking back, Coach, this was Goody's plan all along. You could see he was focused on the entire time, like, all right, we got to get some versatile options in here. You could have went a different route, like trying to think here. You could have went with like a Trey Harris, right? We all like Trey Harris, but Trey Harris wasn't really a slot receiver, right? He was more of an X. I'm sure he could kick into the slot, but you turn on the Trey Harris tape and you see a guy beating man coverage downfield, and you turn on the Savion Williams tape and you see a guy all over the formation. He's all over the joint. So I think that Goody really wanted to prioritize with those two wide receivers, someone like Matthew Golden who can play. He can play Z. He's got that 4.2 speed. He can move around into the slot. He can do a lot of different things. He attacks the football, with hands catching, things like that. I don't know. It just kind of feels like he wanted to approach it from a versatility standpoint more so than anything. I think you're spot on there, Coach. Drew D says, do you think Golden will be ahead of Wicks? That's a great question, Drew. That's a great question. Matter of fact, let me take this down and pull that back up real quick. Do we think that Golden will be ahead of Wicks? 23rd overall pick. I think so, Drew. But it's more of a deployment question, right? Like, I think Golden is going to be our Z receiver. That's what it kind of feels like. Jaden Reed in the slot, Golden at a Z. If Dobbs, let's pretend Dobbs isn't on the roster. That way Wicks kind of gets injected into the offense at a little more rapid pace here. You see Wicks more of an X receiver or a slot, right? You don't really see Wicks as a Z, although I said just a second ago, maybe you could play him at Z a little. I think that Matthew Golden will, quote unquote, be ahead of Wicks because you always have a Z receiver on the field. Now, we know how they like to deploy these receivers, just like not quite as bad as defense where they like to really get that heavy hockey line rotation going. But they do like to rotate these guys in and out. I mean, you've seen it last year. Dontavion Wicks got more targets than Dobbs did, right? So I think it's more of a deployment thing, man. When they're in 11 personnel, if Dobbs isn't on the roster, I think it'll be Wicks X, Golden Z, Reed slot. And then when Wicks needs to come off the field, you can put Savion Williams in at the X to give him a breather, that type of thing. You got Malik Heath too. Malik Heath, here's a question, Drew, or just a thought-provoking with your question there. Maybe Malik Heath ends up being ahead of Savion Williams on the depth chart, right? Maybe he's that X as opposed to Savion. And maybe they just work Savion into the backfield a little bit and get him used to the motion, the cheat motion, and the kind of the trickery in the backfield, right? That could be the case. Malik Heath's one of those guys, man. And now, listen, they may like Bo Melton way more than Malik Heath. That could be the case. But me personally, I like Malik Heath better than Bo Melton. Not as a person. Bo Melton is unbelievable, man. That dude is, I mean, you talking about a top-notch guy, man. That guy is, I want him to make the roster. The problem is there's just not enough spots. If Romeo gets traded, then Bo might make the roster, right? You got Matthew Golden, Jaden Reed, Savion Williams, Dontavion Wicks. Yeah, and Malik Heath would be your fifth, right? I don't think I missed anybody there. Yeah. So that's probably how that would shake out. So now if Doubs makes the roster, or if Doubs is still on the roster, Malik Heath still may make the roster, because I think we broke camp with 6 last year, if I remember correctly. So Drew D in the chat says it'd be a fun camp to watch for sure, man. You're in the perfect spot, Drew, to be able to go over there to camp where you live in Green Bay. I think it's going to be one of the most interesting training camps in Packer history. I really do, man. Really, really do. Chris Casual says Heath over Melton. I agree. And listen, Melton's got that speed, don't get me wrong, but when you look at the metrics and everything that we broke down before with Heath, he's like, man, he really maximized. He took advantage of every opportunity he had, but he doesn't have Bo Melton speed, so there's a place for him on the roster as well, so for sure. Let's see here. Coach Lynn says we have 3 Bo Melton top wide receivers on the roster with Golden and Harmon. I'm trying to think who you're talking about. Harmon there. Probably meant somebody else. Reed. Sorry. Okay, you meant Reed. Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at speed, right, and that's what Bo does, but you never seen him send Bo deep that much, right? And the thing that I talked about last year that I noticed was whenever Jaden Reed would come out of the game, you would see Bo in there as the motion guy. He'd be playing F, which kind of makes you think, do they see him more of a slot receiver or an F? Because, that's essentially what the F is in Matt LaFleur's offense, is what they call a moving Z, which means pre-snap they line up in the Z and then they kick over into the slot with cheat motion. So they're essentially a slot receiver is what they're playing, right? So, yeah. It's going to be interesting, though, man. It's going to be a fun year. I can't wait. It's and what's crazy is it's May the 11th. We're gonna get the schedule this week. We got an OTA coming up at the end of the month. We got another OTA in June. It's gonna be here in a blink, guys. I mean, an absolute blink of the eye. It's gonna be football season. I can't wait. So, all right. When I go solo, it's hard to go longer than 45 minutes because the voice starts to go. You guys seen I didn't take a drink. I did pretty good there. I was trying not to sip and waste your all's time while we were live, but we'll probably just wrap it up right there. So tomorrow what we're going to get into is we'll get into Goody's draft history. I put an article together. You guys go check it out. You can get kind of a little jump on the gun and see what we're going to talk about tomorrow over at the Patreon group. It's the best way to support the show. I have people reach out all the time. They're like, hey, man, I want to support what you're doing there. Where can I send money? Do you have a Venmo? Do you have a PayPal? I say, hey, just go to patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access. You can find the link in the description of this video. You can scan the QR code in the upper right. There's also a banner here I think the guys created. There you go. That's the best way to support the show. All right. You're going to see a $3 tier, a $5 tier, and a $10 tier. The $3 tier gets you access to everything on the site. The $5 and the $10 just there because people wanted to support the show more. And we greatly appreciate that, but please don't feel obligated to do that. But the $3 will get you access to that article where we're going to cover tomorrow, where what I did was took the last 4 years of Brian Gutekunst's draft history and basically, all right, here's the draft picks he took, and I inserted their PFF grades alongside of their those draft classes. And we're going to kind of break that down, and you're going to see, man, 4 years ago, draft class sucked. I mean, it was cheeks. It was absolute cheeks. And it seems like it's gotten better as time's gone on. It spiked and then stabilized and maybe spiked a little bit more last year with Edgerrin Cooper, Evan Williams. We got some dogs out of that class for sure. So I feel like Goody's really kind of settled into his element now. And I'm trying to think 4 years ago would have been, 24, 23, 20. So that would have been the 2020 class, right? If I remember correctly. So I think that was the year before. Jordan Love was drafted, but I could be wrong. I know Jordan Love was not a part of those draft classes. So, yeah, we stopped just shy of his pick there. And don't get me wrong, that pick from Goody was absolutely huge. Anytime you hit on a franchise quarterback, that's like who cares what happens with the rest of the class? You get the most important piece in place if you believe Jordan is that guy. I personally do. I do believe that he's the guy. Do I think he's top 3? No. But I think he's a top 10 quarterback in the league when he's healthy. And I think this year with the emergence of Matthew Golden, if we hit on that one, if we hit on the Savion pick, and let's say Dontavion Wicks and Jaden Reed take another step, I think he's going to be just fine. Tucker Kraft, now you'll have a healthy Luke Musgrave. I hope he pops. I really like what Ben Sims brings to the table. If Anthony Belton, if Brian Gutekunst is able to hit on Anthony Belton the way he has other offensive linemen in his recent draft history, then Jordan will be upright the entire time. We'll be good to go. We already got a top 10 defense. We've already got a top 10 offense. Now, we were the youngest team in the league last year, right? Let those second-year players kind of take that next step, right? And then you added a couple veterans in Aaron Banks and on offense, at left guard. You added a veteran in Nate Hobbs at cornerback on the defense. I feel like it's early, and I got to see the schedule. And, of course, we'll always throw that out there that, hey, man, it depends on if they stay healthy, if nothing freaky happens, that type of thing. But it's feeling like as we're last year, I was saying 10 to 13 wins. To me this year, it feels like 12 to 14 wins. Maybe probably 11 to 14. I like to give myself a little 3-game buffer there, I would say 11 to 14 wins, somewhere in that range is what it's feeling like right now. So Jordan stays healthy, and they can get this thing humming like they had it at certain parts of the year last year and definitely in the second half of 2023. I think it's a legit shot that you can come out and win the North this year. Yeah, it's going to be tough. Don't get me wrong. The Lions are going to be a good team, but if those coordinators were so good that they deserved head coaching jobs, I can't imagine their team's going to be stronger without them, right? Same thing kind of with the Vikings. You got a first-year starting quarterback. I can't imagine they'll be better this year than they were last year, where they had Sam Darnold starting, who was playing for a good portion of the year, MVP caliber quarterback play. So anyway, we'll give a special shout-out to Clint, the armchair quarterback, gifting those memberships. You are the man, sir. Appreciate you so much. We'll be back tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central for PTA Live. Thanks to everybody in the chat. I wish I could engage a little bit more, but you guys know when I'm solo, it's hard for me to read the chat, respond to it. I thought about doing a show where we just go like a Q&A, kind of like a PTA daily chat or something like that, and just field questions, that type of thing. Super chats go to the front of the line and just kind of field questions. But I don't know. You guys give me some feedback in the Patreon group if you think that'd be a good idea or not. So anyway, thank you guys so much. We appreciate y'all. We'll see y'all tomorrow. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack.
And we go. We out.
Bye, guys.